Thank you for coming out to CSIS and our shiny new building, although it's not so new anymore. It's about a year old. Still shiny, though. This event is something we've been really looking forward to, and I'm happy to do it because what we've seen is the roots of this go back to really August of 2012, right? With the failure to pass legislation. And that legislation would have made a single agency responsible for cybersecurity. And I think the model was very corporate. You know, that it would be like a CIO or a CISO. You'd have an Uber agency, and that, I think, was the wrong model, is one of the things we learned. So there's been a new approach to cybersecurity, one that gives the sector-specific agencies, the independent regulatory agencies, a much greater role. I think this is going to be the wave of the future. This is a new model for cybersecurity. It offers the possibility of working really well. We had a previous event with FireEye, and I think there's orally there, a previous event that focused on the NIST framework, again, building on what the EO has done. In this one, the framework is not our focus today. We've asked the leading experts from key agencies to talk about what they're doing and where they see the challenges. So for us, this was kind of a surprise. This was our dream team for speakers. Usually you don't get your dream team, and so I was really happy when we got these people. Their full bios are on our website, but I will do some quick introductions. The format for today is we will have Julie Beryl, who everyone knows, commissioner from the FTC, and the leading voice in Washington on some of these issues, particularly privacy and security now. She'll open with remarks. Unfortunately, Julie has to leave a little early, so she'll make some remarks, then she'll take Q&A from you, and then we're going to switch to the Dream Team panel, which is Valerie Abend from the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, and I'll do their full bios when we get to panel, or more of their bios. Joseph McClelland from FERC, and David Simpson from the FCC, joined by Jake Olcott, who bears much of the culpability for the 2012 legislation. No, that's not fair. But we'll have Julie and then a panel. I'm looking forward to this discussion. I think it will be something we really haven't talked about that much before, so I welcome our panelists and our speaker.
Thanks so much, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim, for that nice introduction, and thank you to the Center for inviting me to address you all this afternoon and for taking up this topic. It's really a pleasure to speak to a group of people who have such depth and breadth in security issues. We live in a networked world. We Americans depend on constant connections to work, relax, and toggle between the two. Communications networks synchronize our critical infrastructure, including our electricity, water, hospitals, buses, and transportation systems. And we're rapidly moving toward an Internet of Things, which will put everything from our washers and dryers to our cars online. These developments hold promises small and great, from allowing us to save a few extra steps when we need to turn off the lights, to using our resources more efficiently. All of these connections bring risks along with benefits. Over the past year, it seems that we haven't gone more than a few days without hearing about a major security breach involving consumers' financial data or other sensitive information. Verizon's latest data breach investigations report records nearly 1,400 breaches in 2013 alone. Retailers, hospitals, and universities have all been targets. And federal agencies have taken their hits as well. The scale of breaches has kept pace with Moore's Law, and at the same time, we're putting more and more sensitive information online. This means that the stakes in the security game are continuously increasing. Consumers expect companies to protect their information. Data security protections are increasingly like keeping the lights on. Consumers might not notice when they work, but they sure notice when they fail. Data security is one of our top consumer protection priorities at the Federal Trade Commission. In our enforcement actions and policy initiatives, we focus on the harms that consumers may suffer when companies fail to keep information secure. Unauthorized access to data puts consumers at risk of fraud, identity theft, and even physical harm. Data can reveal information about our health conditions, financial status, or other sensitive traits. Security is also an essential element of maintaining consumers' privacy, which is another top consumer protection priority at the Federal Trade Commission. I'd like to convey two main messages about our data security enforcement program at the Federal Trade Commission. First, we enforce a flexible standard of reasonable security. Second, the Federal Trade Commission is the only federal agency with the authority to enforce such a standard across broad swaths of the U.S. economy. Our reasonable security standard adapts to rapid changes in both technology and security threats, allowing us to apply this standard to both older technologies as well as technologies that are just emerging. Let me take a moment to put the FTC's data security enforcement program in the context of other recent governmental efforts. Over the past few years, other governmental experts have turned their attention to answering difficult questions about the legal, economic, political, and military aspects of cybersecurity. The Obama administration has been active on this front, reaching important milestones with the Executive Order on Critical Infrastructure Cybersecurity and NIST's framework for improving critical infrastructure cybersecurity. I applaud the administration's efforts and its use of an inclusive process to develop these policies. The core of the NIST framework is about risk assessment and mitigation. In this regard, it is fully consistent with the FTC's enforcement framework. One of the pillars of reasonable security practices that the FTC has established through our settlements in more than 50 data security cases is that assessing and addressing security risks must be a continuous process. There's no single right way to do these assessments. It depends on the volume and sensitivity of information the company holds, the cost of the tools that are available to address vulnerabilities, and other factors. By identifying different risk management practices and defining different levels of implementation, the NIST framework takes a similar approach. Now let me turn to the legal authority that we have at the Federal Trade Commission to do the job that we believe we need to do. The main legal authority that the FTC uses in the data security space is Section 5 of the Federal Trade Commission Act, which gives us the ability to stop unfair or deceptive acts and practices in commerce. We first applied Section 5 to data security issues in 2002, back in the day when, to paraphrase Tom Friedman, 4G was a parking space, an app was something high school seniors sent to colleges, clouds were in the sky, Twitter was for the birds, and Skype was a typo. In the world of 2002, those were all true, and that is truly in the distant past. Yet Section 5 remains a highly effective tool for protecting consumers' information. The FTC's data security enforcement actions initially focused on deception, recognizing that consumers' data was valuable to them and potentially harmful if obtained by fraudsters, identity thieves, and other malicious actors. Companies began to promise to consumers that they would keep this data secure. Those promises were and are material to consumers' choices about whether to use a product or service. After all, who would entrust their information to a company that doesn't protect it? When companies don't live up to their promises, the Federal Trade Commission may step in. From the beginning, our view has been that a promise to keep information secure has to be backed up by reasonable and appropriate processes and practices. Now, within a few years, it became clear that the FTC's ability to stop unfair practices under Section 5 would have its place alongside deception in our efforts to ensure reasonable security protections for consumer data.